Israel never cared at all about the hostages. Now, what's disgusting is that Western media, especially all our politicians, including the progressive one like Bernie Sanders and John Fetterman, they used hostages as a PR prop in order to justify killing more Palestinians, because there was multiple deals on the table. You had Qatar. You had a Qatari broker deal that would have released hostages, but Israel did not want to do that unless they got a ground offensive. Let me show you guys this damning story that came out yesterday. And Vice News is reporting on this. You guys see the second segment we're going to cover today will be CNN and BBC turning on Israel. Israel propaganda is so bad. This slaughter of the Palestinians is so horrific. It's shocking to me to see, but capitalists are making the calculation that, dude, we can't go down with this shit, bro. This shit is done. So you are seeing in CNN, BBC running critical stories because Israel did this ridiculous raid on a hospital that they claim was part of Hamas. They did a raid, and then they doctored evidence. Margaret Kimberly called this out before the raid happened. I said it on RBN as well. They're going to do this raid on the Al-Shifa hospital, and then they're going to plant evidence like they always do to justify and say, oh, Hamas is here. But if you have to plant evidence, if you have to lie to the point where you know you're in the wrong like this, why would anyone believe you? Israel is let me be clear here. The reason why I say the United States is the most propagandized country in the world is because the United States is the most effective propaganda. They get people to actually believe that CNN, Fox News is real news. They actually believe that America is free, despite the fact that we imprison 1/4 of the world's prison population. You know what I mean? They believe in that capitalism increased prosperity, and despite the fact that we had increased income inequality, millions of homeless. Like, so in terms of effective propaganda, including them brainwashing the world on the war on terror, it's clown shit, but it's actually good. Israel, in terms of what they actually pump out, is probably you can say they're the most propagandized because the clown shit they put out there. But it's not effective. It's so ineffective, the entire world sees through them. You have Jewish people that are fed Zionist propaganda from day one. They see through it. That's how bad Israel propaganda is. Israel propaganda is so bad because they know the United States and the West will always have their back no matter what. So they don't have to influence. So they got lazy. I'm going to show you guys the laughable, cartoonish propaganda that Israel was putting out there. But first, I'm going to show you guys how, actually, I'll pull it out right now since I mentioned it. This is why I mentioned the IDF is the goofiest. The IDF is the goofiest terrorist organization of all time. So you had the IDF who uploaded a video of a laptop that they found from the hospital, but they made a mistake of not blurring the hospital out. They didn't blur the laptop out as they showed it. So then when they didn't blur it, it was clear that it was an IDF laptop because they had pictures of a ton of IDF soldiers on there. And Hotspot, the media organization I work with to produce these videos for you guys, they mentioned that IDF deletes and re-uploads video showing a fully charged, non-password protected laptop with damning evidence that it belonged to Hamas. How convenient. So the clowns at the IDF, remember, they're the goofiest fucking terrorist organization of all time. They forgot to blur the laptop. It's important to keep in mind that there hasn't been power in the area. Meanwhile, it's a fully charged laptop.
Which will be analyzed. Analyzed is a laptop. We found it in the MRI room. This is how the laptop looks. I don't know who it belonged to, but now it is being analyzed by our Intel people.
So if you're telling the truth, why would you delete the version of the laptop, the video that didn't have a blur screen? Wouldn't that show that it's a Hamas laptop? They deleted it because the picture shown showed that it was an IDF laptop. Let's see if I can find the picture. It's literally a picture of her. She's an IDF agent. She literally worked for the IDF. That was on the laptop. So they had to delete it. I'm going to show you guys more examples, but because of this clown shit propaganda, you have BBC and CNN that finally starting to turn on them. Now I'm gonna show you guys why Israel don't give a fuck about the hostages, despite these very cringeworthy displays. I'm gonna show you guys this. Danny Haifong was posting about this. I saw this video everywhere, where they are having these yoga segments for the Israeli hostages that Israel don't give a fuck about. Oh God. Not a lick of melanin in sight. Not a lick of melanin. What do you call this? Yoga mom for bombing Palestinian children? So is the ask of these people who care about the hostages that we should have a ceasefire? It's absolutely not. You want to know how absurd it is, guys? So these people said we need to free the hostages. We need to take care of the hostages, but they don't want a ceasefire. So they want to bomb the hostages? You have Israel and the IDF. They will say, we are 100% sure, we got evidence that Hamas and hostages are located at this hospital right here. So what should we do, sir? Let's bomb the hospital. How does that make sense? Oh my God, Hamas got hostages in hospitals and school kids, in kids' schools. So let's bomb them. What? Do they understand that? I see Brooklyn Dad there. Big shout out to my friend Didi. That's funny. So the funny thing is, all these people who claim to care about the hostages, they don't call for a ceasefire. And how critical are they of the Israeli government? They want to spend all our time condemning Hamas, who, based on their logic, has every single right to commit October 7th. Because based on the logic of Israel, as I'm going to show you guys right now, Israel can kill as many kids as they want. They can bomb as many hospitals as they want. The reason why they can do that, the reason why they can commit war crimes, is because Hamas take hostages. But Israel has taken hundreds of children hostage. I think they have 170 children hostage. They have thousands of Palestinians that are held hostage without due process. So based on the logic of the Zionists, based on the logic of the war criminal Israel, Joe Biden and the entire Republican Party, Hamas have every single right to do what they did on October 7th because you guys got Palestinian prisoners. Do you guys understand that? But now listen to what the Israeli government has done. Look at this. Israel went at ground offensive before hostage deal. What? So Israel don't care about the hostages then. Let me read the subheadline. Israel is reportedly considering a deal to exchange some hostages with Hamas, as well as a humanitarian pause to the offensive in Gaza. But the problem with this is, and now Israel, like, we considering this hostage deal now. The problem is that this same hostage deal has been on the table for weeks now. For weeks now, there was a Qatari broker deal that would exchange hostages. Hamas would have freed hostages in exchange for what? In exchange, Israel had to free the women and children that they had in captive. Let me repeat that for you guys. No one in corporate media will tell you this. The deal that was brokered by Qatar, that was agreed to by Hamas, agreed to by many countries, that Israel just now supporting, that's been on the table for weeks now, was Hamas would release the hostages if Israel released the children and women that they had in prison. Tell me more about Hamas, how evil Hamas is. Israel had children and women. How much media is reporting on this? I read corporate media headlines on this, and they are not mentioned. They said there's a deal. They're going to exchange hostages. What hostages? You mean the women and children that Israel stolen from Palestinians? So now I want you guys to rewind, because now based on their logic is because Hamas took hostages from us, we are allowed to do whatever we want, including killing civilians and children in Gaza because of that. Now, based on their logic, doesn't Hamas have every right to do what they did on October 7th times 1,000? Think about that. Now, think about how little Israel actually care about the hostages, because the narrative that we are told about Hamas is that Hamas is uniquely evil. They torture and they kill hostages. Being a hostage under Hamas occupation is the worst thing that can happen to you. That is the message that comes from Zionism in Israel. So you, with the idea in your framework that being under Hamas captivity is awful, you wanted them to stay in Hamas captivity for weeks as you launch a ground offensive? I thought you said that Hamas was evil. How can you be so sure that Israeli hostages would survive if they stay in captivity with Hamas for weeks? But they did, right? They released hostages that said Hamas took good care of them. Let me there's another one here. Let me show you guys this. There's so much. To show you how this part right here show you guys how Biden was complicit with this. So this deal has been on the table for weeks now. But despite the fact that this deal was on the table, that we will free hostages if there is a humanitarian pause, and that Israel released children and women that they had hostage, you have Joe Biden that, knowing this deal was on the table, then said that we cannot have a ceasefire unless Hamas releases the hostages. You guys see how Biden is purposely lying about this. He purposely covering for Israel, where Hamas agreed to release hostages. There was a Qatari broker deal based on the premise of having a ceasefire, humanitarian pauses, release in hostage exchanges. But Biden was pretending that such a thing didn't exist so he can fight against a ceasefire. Let me read the headline for people who are only listening. Biden said, then we can talk. Biden says no ceasefire in Israel-Hamas war until hostages released. But doesn't that contradict the fact that Israel wanted to do this ground offensive before the hostage deal? Because Netanyahu didn't want a hostage exchange. Israel was very open about the fact that they didn't want to have a hostage exchange because that would temper down the bloodlust and rob them of the political capital that they need in order to commit a genocide. So do you guys see how Biden and the United States pretend that there's nothing they can do to stop Israel? But Biden is working with them on the propaganda? Yeah, actually, no. This is Netanyahu. Just another example. So we have mounting evidence that Israel does not care about the hostages at all. So as Biden is telling you that we can't have a ceasefire because Hamas has hostages, even though Israel had way more, Netanyahu rejected a ceasefire for hostages. Why isn't Biden telling you this? Why isn't the corporate media telling you this? You guys see how Biden is working in tandem with them? Now, let me show you guys this here. What the media also doesn't share with you, and the reason why I would never rob Hamas and Palestinians of their legal right to armed resistance. Because as I mentioned before, Israel's logic is that they can do whatever they want. They can commit all the war crimes they want. They can kill children. They can bomb hospitals because Hamas took prisoners. But people condemn Hamas for armed resistance, considering the fact that you have Palestinian prisoners, many of them that are in prison without due process. Headline: why are so many Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails? 4 in 10 Palestinian men spend time in Israeli jail. Hamas says it wants to exchange captured Israelis for them. You guys know how many corporate media segments I watch, especially Fox News and Republican news, that do not mention that. And according to them, Hamas are barbarians who don't care about their own people. Meanwhile, Israel is bombing their own hostages, and Hamas is like, come on, man, we don't really want to keep these motherfuckers. We just want to get our fucking children back. We want our women and children back. We want our civilians who were charged without due process that was kidnapped by Israel back. Let's see, what number did they use? I'm going on top of my head. They talk about how Gaza is an open air prison. I'm looking for the number. Yeah, I was right. 170 children. So, oh, Jesus Christ. So the number of Palestinians currently behind Israeli bars is 5,200, including 33 women and 170 children. And all the prisoners are prosecuted in military court. And I don't know where in this article it mentioned this, but I am well read on this. Many of the Palestinian prisoners are held without due process. That's something else you gotta remember. So based on their bloodthirsty logic, Hamas have every single right to do what it did on October 7th because Israel stole 5,000 Palestinian people and have them in prisons. Now, the bullshit argument that they would make is that they are terrorists. Of course, we're going to hold terrorists in prisons, even though they don't charge them. Even though a lot of these people are civilians, there are a lot of testimony on this. But based on their logic, Hamas would say, and any rational freedom fighter would say, that Israel are terrorists because they are terrorizing the Palestinian people, which led to 2022 being one of the highest Palestinian death tolls of all time. The fact that we got 5,000 Palestinians in captivity is another reason as well. But there is, as we're going to cover here next, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Because Israel and Zionism is in shambles. They lost the trust of the world. The United States, Biden, Blinken, and Israel is isolated. So even Israelis, a lot of them who are bloodthirsty bigots who want to see Palestinians dead, they want their hostages back. So Benjamin Netanyahu, what he does, he uses hostages as a PR. Let's see if I can find the article. He uses it as a PR prop. Oh, here it is. I'm pulling all this up literally last second. So this is actually a pretty decent article here. For Netanyahu's government, Israeli hostages are just a propaganda tool. So they don't care about hostages. They want hostages to be there so they can stoke violent anti-Palestinian sentiment so they can complete their ethnic cleansing and genocide of the Palestinian people. And that's essentially what the claim here is. And that's why there was a let's see if I pull this one up too. You guys know, I don't trust you guys just to believe me. You had Hamas that offered a deal for hostages, and Israel rejected it, and they claimed it was propaganda, and they never got those offers. But it was widely reported that Netanyahu and Israel didn't want them because they wanted to keep the anger up for the genocide. Look, I want to show you guys something that's absolutely crazy and blew my mind because, as I was mentioning, Israelis want their family back. They want the hostages back. So they are livid with how Netanyahu is handling this. So this is unbelievable to me. As war rages, Israelis' trust in Netanyahu plummets. Poll find. So after October 7th, you now had under 4% of Israelis that trust Netanyahu. Jesus Christ. Let me read the subheadline. 4%. A poll conducted by researchers at Bar-Ilan University asked Israelis about trust in information and decision-making regarding the war in Gaza. Results show that under 4% trust Netanyahu. 4%? That's fucking crazy. Do you guys know what George W. Bush had like a 70%, 80% approval rating after 9/11? Israel is saying that October 7th is their 9/11. But after their 9/11, public still hate Netanyahu as he does this vengeance tour for them. It's unheard of. It's unheard of. And I can only guess that one of the reasons is because many Israelis want to see the hostages return, and a lot of Israelis are brainwashed, and they think that Hamas got hostages in hospitals, so they see Netanyahu bombing hospitals, and they're like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Why are you bombing your hostages? So you guys want to see an example why Zionism is not democracy? Zionism is not democracy. Apartheid states are inherently not democracies, but as you guys see here, people in Israel, even the settlers, are not happy about how Netanyahu is handling this conflict. But do they have a say? No. You know the same way how most Americans want a ceasefire, including most Republicans, but we don't get it because America and Israel is not a democracy. I think this is incredible. But this shows why Zionism silences the free speech, and Zionism make Jews more unsafe. Because I can show you so many videos, but I don't want to get demonetized and pulled from YouTube. But there's all these videos of IDF officers beating the fuck out of Jewish people in Israel that are speaking up against Netanyahu. As we see, is massively unpopular. Look at this, under 4%. So we see the videos of people getting their ass beat by the IDF who protesting in Israel and their occupation of and their execution of Gaza. So how many Israelis don't go to peace protest because they know if they do go, not only will they get their ass beat, they will be ostracized from their community. They will be canceled financially and their lives will be ruined. Despite this fact, we still got peace activists in Israel. You had clips and there were videos of, and CJ covered this yesterday, where Jewish protesters in the United States were thrown downstairs. They was attacked by the United States police, who also trained with the IDF. So you have Jewish people that are being attacked because they speak out against Israel bombing hostages. Can I repeat myself? Jewish peace activists are being brutalized in Israel and in America, in the UK, in Germany, in France, because they're protesting the Israeli government who is bombing the hostages that they want to see released. Do you guys understand how psychotic the times we are living in now?